It all started with a folded napkin, a cup of lukewarm coffee, and a man who almost gave up on believing that second chances existed. If someone had told Jack Miller that his life would change in the middle of an empty restaurant on a rainy Friday night, he would have laughed, because for him, happy endings only belonged in movies, not in the real world. But that night, 4 small voices changed everything. Jack sat alone at the corner booth, glancing at the clock for what felt like the 100th time. The waitress passed by with a sympathetic smile. She'd seen that look before. The look of someone pretending to be okay, while his heart was breaking a little more with each tick of the clock. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not really. His buddies had pushed him into the blind date after months of seeing him live like a ghost. "You've done your duty, Jack," they'd said. "You deserve to live again." But living hadn't been easy since his wife, Laura, passed away 5 years ago. She was his anchor through war, through nightmares, through the endless deployments that stole time he could never get back. When cancer took her, it took a part of him too. Now he was just the quiet dad who packed lunches, ironed tiny shirts, and fell asleep in his recliner after putting his daughter Emma to bed. His phone buzzed. A text from the woman he was supposed to meet. Or maybe it would have been if the screen wasn't still blank. He stared at the empty message box, the untouched glass of water across from him, and felt a familiar ache rising in his chest. She wasn't coming. He was about to leave when he heard it, a flurry of footsteps, followed by the sound of giggling. 4 little kids, soaked from the rain, came running through the restaurant doors. Behind them, a woman hurried in, clutching her coat tight. Her hair was damp, her cheeks flushed, and her eyes, those soft hazel eyes, searched the room with an urgency that froze him in place. "Sorry, I'm so sorry I'm late," she said breathlessly, brushing the rain off her kids' jackets. "Our babysitter cancelled last minute and I couldn't— Oh no!" She stopped mid-sentence, realizing who was sitting at the table. Jack stood up slowly, unsure what to say. The kids looked up at him curiously before one of them piped up, "Mommy said she's sorry. We tried to hurry." Something about their innocence, about the way they looked at him without judgment or pity, melted the heaviness he'd been carrying. He smiled, just barely. "You must be Sarah." She nodded, cheeks red with embarrassment. "Yeah. And these are my chaos crew." He chuckled. "I see that." What was supposed to be an awkward dinner turned into something unexpected. The restaurant, once quiet and cold, came alive with laughter and spilled crayons. Jack found himself cutting pizza slices, listening to knock-knock jokes, and watching Sarah smile across the table. It wasn't the romantic candlelit dinner he imagined, but it was real, messy, warm. And for the first time in years, he felt something stir in his chest, something dangerously close to hope. By dessert, the kids were fighting over who got the last scoop of ice cream. Sarah looked mortified, but Jack just leaned back, grinning. "You know," he said quietly, "this is the best date I've had in a long time." She laughed, a soft, tired, beautiful laugh that sounded like home. "You must not go on many then." He looked at her, really looked, and said, "No. I guess I was waiting for the right one." That night ended with goodbyes in the parking lot, kids yawning in the back seat and a promise to meet again. But what began as a chance encounter slowly grew into something deeper. Over the weeks that followed, they talked every day. She learned about the war, the medals he never bragged about, the friends he'd lost, and the demons that sometimes followed him into his dreams. He learned about her life as a single mom, the long shifts, the constant worry, and the unshakable strength that kept her world spinning. They were 2 people who had been broken in different ways, learning how to build again. One evening, months later, Jack sat on his porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. Emma was playing with Sarah's kids in the yard, their laughter echoing through the fading light. Sarah joined him on the steps, a cup of coffee in her hands. "You ever think about how strange life is?" she asked. "One minute, you're sure you've lost everything. The next, it's like God hands you a second chance." Jack nodded. "Yeah, I think about it every day." He turned to her, his voice low. "You know, I almost didn't come that night. I was halfway to turning around." "Me too," she said softly. "But then the kids insisted on bringing that sorry card they made." She smiled at the memory. Guess they were right. He reached over, his hand brushing hers. Guess they were. Silence fell between them, comfortable, peaceful, the kind that only exists when two hearts finally find where they belong. The kids ran up then, laughing, calling for him to join their game. He stood, looking down at Sarah one last time before saying, "You know, I used to think my story ended in a war zone. Turns out it started again in a restaurant full of crayons." She laughed, eyes shining. "And 4 kids with bad timing." He grinned. "Best timing I've ever had." As the night settled around them, Jack realized something he hadn't dared believe in years. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. And somewhere, in the echo of children's laughter and the quiet rhythm of her heartbeat beside him, he found the thing he'd been missing all along: home.